Hello and welcome to Late Night Creations. I'm so glad you joined me today because we are going to make this gorgeous pumpkin decor piece with very little glue. So we're going out to the shop and we're going to cut some wood. I'm going to cut all of these about 10 inches. I'm going to use one to measure the next one. And you know what? They don't all end up exactly the same length, but that's okay because this is a rustic piece. Just using this scrap wood that I have out in the shop and just easy peasy. I'm going to line that saw blade up with my line. And cut it just like that. Now I'm going to take it in where it's nice and cool because it was 111 degrees today outside and I was in that hot shop cutting that wood. So I'm going to take this in. I'm using this 60 or 80 grit sandpaper and just giving it a quick little sand. We want it to stay rustic. Now I'm going to use the Vintage Linen paint by DIY. And going to just pour some into this little takeout lid. And I'm just going to give it a rough paint job. I'm not looking for any kind of full coverage at all. I'm using a chippy brush so that it looks rustic. And I'm also going to put another coat of paint on top of this. But I'm going to paint all the sides, the front, the back. All of it with this same technique. All of the pieces involved. Then I'm going to take Summer Crush by DIY Paint, and I get all my DIY paints from Sammy at www.unicorndustdesigns.com. You can go over there, you can get all your DIY or recycled papers and all kinds of vintage goodies for sale over there. So go and check out her website. I'll have it linked in the description box below. And just go over there and go shopping and have a good time. I love the DIY paints. I'm going to just do the same technique with the Summer Crush. And this is a beautiful orange. It's great for fall. Now, instead of using glue, we're going to make our own little kind of dowel sticks here. Now, I'm using these skewers. And I'm showing you that I got a drill bit that's the same size to drill my holes. And this was one of those 36-inch skewers from Dollar Tree that they only have in the summertime, but they're a little bit bigger around than the regular ones. And so I've just marked off how long I want them. I'm going to take my miter shears and it cuts these just like butter. So easy. I hesitate because I don't want it to fling it across the room. So I'm being a little bit gentle with how I cut them. Then I'm going to drill a hole, and then I'm going to put these little pegs in, making my own little pegs. And we're going to, you've probably seen furniture that has this method to hold it together, and I just thought this would be easier because a lot of times my scrap wood is not even, and so when you try to glue it together, it doesn't make full contact. So this will be easier. So I'm just going to hammer these down into the little holes. And then I'm going to put them up next to each other and find out where my next holes need to be. I'm just going to make little marks and then drill the other holes because sometimes my holes are not even. I do things kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but that's okay. That's part of being creative. And now I'm going to drill the holes in there and this side, and then I will connect them. Now you could put a little wood glue in there if they don't fit tightly, but mine fit pretty tightly. I'm not worried about them coming apart at all. And when I get 3 of these, well, I did 2 of these together. This is actually going to be the middle piece of our pumpkin. I'm trying to hit it with my hand. Let's get the hammer out. very sturdy, very good. So that's going to be the middle piece. And then I have these 3 pieces I'm going to do the same thing with. So I'm going to measure out 2 inches in and then in the middle. And I'm going to do that on each end. And then I'm going to drill holes there. It's important to make sure you're going straight up and down too, which is a little bit difficult when you're going on such a small, thin piece of wood. But from what I can tell, I did good. Yeah, that pine was a little bit wet, and it really smelled so nice. It made my craft room smell like pine. So I'm going to use 1 piece of wood to keep it straight across the bottom, and then I'm going to mark where I need to make a hole, where I need to drill. I'm going to drill that little spot out, and then I'm going to line that up and then mark where my next one should go, making sure it fits. Yep, fits nice and snugly. Snuggly or snugly, either way. Now this one had a little crack in it, and I was kind of worried that this piece of wood might split, but it did not. It was beautiful, worked great. So I'm just going to pop those 2 together, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the other piece to get these 3 pieces hooked together. Now, there they are hooked together. Now, the 2 pieces that I hooked together earlier, we're going to attach to the 3 pieces that are hooked together by those 2 little pegs on the back side. Oops, see them? There they are. It's really difficult for me to keep this in the frame, and I apologize, but you can still kind of see what I'm doing. I'm just marking where I need to drill those holes so that we can stick those in there. I probably should have done one at the bottom, but I did put a little wood glue at the bottom instead of a peg. Now they look crooked, but it's because these were crooked on the back, because they fit just fine. Very good. Yay! Okay, now I'm going to use a little bit of this Titebond Quick and Thick, and I'm going to just squirt it up underneath between there where it's making contact, and that's going to just give it a little extra added strength. Okay, I drilled a hole all the way through. I sure did, but no worries. When you see in the end, you're not even going to notice it. So I went ahead and hammered my peg all the way through. So it just makes, it's going to make it flush. And then I'm going to do the same process for this one as I did the second layer. And we'll call this the top layer. And then we're just going to hammer that in. Same song, same second verse, same as the first. And then I'm going to stick a little bit more of that glue at the bottom like I did on the second layer. And I'm going to take some sandpaper. I'm just going to sand down that little piece of wood that was sticking out, and you can't even tell. Now I'm going to darken up this summer crush a little bit with some weathered wood, because I want to give this little pumpkin a little bit of dimension. And I got too much weathered wood, so I just added a little more summer crush. And I'm going to kind of dry brush a little, not quite dry brush, but not super wet either. Just in the crevices and kind of where the pumpkin would have those creases. And then I took some just a little bit of weathered wood and did it right around the edges. I did that. This was more of a dry brush. I just did it kind of around the edges a little bit. I love this weathered wood. I think it's a beautiful color. It's kind of a grayish brown, more of a gray tone, but it's just beautiful. So I'm drying it up with the heat gun. so that we can speed this process up. I'm going to take that little, it's either 60 or 80 grit. I can't really remember. It came with my orbital sander sanding pads. And so I just use them by hand. But I'm just going to give this a little bit of distressing in a few areas. And then I'm going to seal it with Big Top by DIY. I really have grown to love this sealer. We're going to seal our DIY paint because it is water soluble, and if we don't seal it, when it gets wet or moisture hits it, it's going to reactivate it, and it could be a huge mess. And so we work too hard on our projects not to take care of them properly. So we're going to seal this up, front, back, sides, the whole 9 yards. And it also helps that paint to dry a richer color than if you wax it. Now, this is part of a spindle off of a chair. And yeah, I just drilled a hole in the bottom just like I did on the other pieces. Now, this was the handle of one of these sponge paint brushes, and I always save them. And I used my miter shears to cut it the length I wanted. I'm showing you how easy it is. That just pops off because that wood is so soft. And so I'm going to use that to attach that to the top of our pumpkin piece. Hammer that down in there good, like a peg. And then I'm going to put a hole right there and then stick that down in there. There's my hole. Now, this was a process. I was going to stick this in there and glue it down. Then I decided I needed to do something to it first. See, I start with the tight bond, quick and thick. And I decide I'm going to squirt some down in there. And I'm trying to put that stem in there. And then I decide, wait, I need to do something to this stem, which I should have just left it alone. But I do love how it turns out in the end. So I decided I was going to wrap this burlap ribbon, this really wide burlap ribbon around here. And then I decided I didn't really like that. So I was going to wrap some twine around it. Well, then I started wrapping a bunch of twine around it. I mean, a lot of twine. And then I get to the end, and it is just looking like a hot mess. I don't even know what this looked like. I don't know. It looked like something, well, the birds make nicer nests than this. Anyway, so I just ripped it all off, ripped every bit of that off, sanded it down, all that hot glue off there, and I think it looks great. I should have just done that in the first place. So now back to the glue because the glue's already dried at this point. So I put some of that wood glue in there. I put some wood glue on the stem. I think I did. Oh, I put it on the pumpkin. I'm going to put the hot glue on the stem on the opposite side where the wood glue is going to be, just for a quick hold while the wood glue or the tight bond until it sets up. Okay, now I have some raffia, I have some twine, and I have this lace crocheted ribbon from Dollar Tree. If you've been here very long, you know that I love that ribbon. Every time I find it, I grab some up. And this was kind of a new one to me, so I really liked it. So I'm going to wrap this raffia and this ribbon around the base of this stem. I think I've been calling it a stump. Okay, it's a stem. It's our makeshift stem. And then I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue at the base so that our raffia and our ribbon don't slide off. So I'm going to put a little bit in the back there, and then I'll put a little bit in the front right behind our knot, just so it'll stay where we want it to. Then I'm just going to make a knot. I feel like I'm trying to braid curly hair here, trying to keep all of these pieces all together. where they're supposed to be. Okay, and then I'm going to, just with the crochet ribbon, I'm going to tie a bow. Oh, I didn't show that part. And then I'm going to do this technique that I absolutely love to do. I'm going to wrap that raffia around a dowel rod. This is a large dowel rod I have in my stash I use for things like this. I'm going to take my heat gun and I'm going to dry that up instead of putting it in the oven like we used to back in the day. You know, back in the 80s and 90s. Just going to use the little heat gun and dry that. Now I just spritzed it with my little mister just to get it damp, and then look how cute that is. It looks like little tendrils. I do cut those off a little bit shorter when I trim it all up at the end, but I'm going to do the same thing on this side, just in fast motion. It would be nice if we could really work that fast. Anyway, I think this really turns out great. I love it. You let me know what you think about it. Do you have any scrap wood laying around that you could do this with? I think this is about 10 inches tall. The wood pieces are 10 inches tall. So it's a nice sturdy piece, and we used very little glue. Let me know if you would use this technique to put your projects together. I really want to thank you all for watching, for subscribing, and all the good things. And thank you for watching. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.